A warm welcome to everyone joining us from all over the world. We're here in Most for round number 4 of the 2026 Clio Cup Bohemia season. We are ready for race number 1 here in the Czech Republic, and things have kind of changed after qualifying because our championship leader Bartłomiej Mirecki will start this race from the 7th row of the grid down in 14th position, not the qualifying he would have wanted, and out of nowhere it's Reto Wust and Rafał Paprota on the front row, as you can see them right about now getting ready for this race to start from the first 2 spots on the grid. Here is in fact the starting grid. Nico Wust also starts from 3rd with Tomáš Pekař, the hometown hero, in 4th position. Julian Śmiechowski, the other championship contender, in 5th. Jörg Sodenik in 6th position ahead of Martin Toth and Martic Preza. Jakub Wondraczek and Oskar Marzelkowski round out the top 10. A top 10 that is without Bartłomiej Mirecki. Here he is down in 14th position, and that is something brand new for this season as we head towards the 4th round of this campaign. Mirecki has been absolutely phenomenal, has been on a tear in the first 3 rounds of the season with 3 wins compared to Śmiechowski's 2. But of course now Mirecki will have his work cut out of himself, given how difficult it was for him to find a clean lap time in a qualifying marred by a couple of red flags as well. I'm Daniel Espadi and I will be your commentator for this weekend as Clio Cup Bohemia comes to the halfway stage of its 2026 season. We've been to the Red Bull Ring, to Grobnik and to the Salzburgring, and then for the first time we're visiting we're visiting the Czech Republic before going to Slovakia, and then for the last 2 rounds of the season in Brno and the Hungaroring. We're already here in Most for what is a very dark and gloomy day. It has rained heaps and volumes after a dry qualifying, but now the track has dried up once again, and therefore we're back to slick conditions for this race, though of course it's quite cold out here compared to yesterday, for example, where the temperature neared 34 degrees. It's only 23 today, but most importantly there's a lot of wind out there, which would make it quite complicated for the drivers. We'll be seeing who adapts the most as the 2 Wust family members get ready to start from 1st and 3rd. Reto in front of Nico, and between the 2 of them it's Rafał Paprota in 2nd place. Pole position going to Reto Wust thanks to a 2 minute 2 second .755, 2/10 quicker than Paprota, with Nico Wust in 3rd place and Tomáš Pekař in 4th. Pekař himself has been great this season but needs to tidy things up a tad bit as he goes to show just how competitive this field really has been. And behind him, Julian Śmiechowski, he's already won twice this season, and he's looking for a 3rd win or yet another podium, which would be incredibly important in the championship standings, given that Bartłomiej Mirecki is down in 14th position and quite far behind the leader, 1.7 seconds off Reto Wust in qualifying, though of course, as we said before, it was a very peculiar qualifying session with a couple of red flags and track conditions that weren't really helping, rain spitting throughout it. Then we had a pretty heavy rainfall in the late morning to the early afternoon here, but now it has been dry, or at least not raining, for almost a couple of hours, I'd say, with the drivers getting ready for what is and looks to be a dry race. The green flag has been waved at the back end of the grid, and therefore we can safely start the formation lap as the 24 cars get ready to put on a show here in Most. Reto Wust on pole position, Rafał Paprota in 2nd, and then it's Nico Wust, Tomáš Pekař and Jakub Śmiechowski rounding out the top 5. Watch out of course for Bartłomiej Mirecki down in 14th position, as now we see every single driver leaving the grid, completed by Pavel Piker, as you can see. Car number 12 driven by Pavel, now racing towards turn number 1, also to try and figure out how the track is, if there's still a couple of puddles here and there, or if the line is completely dry, which should be the case. We've had plenty of racing today already with Formula 4 CEZ, TCI Eastern Europe, the GT Cup Series, and now of course going back out on track with the Clio Cup Bohemia for its 4th round. If this is the first time that you join us, this is round 4 of the season. We were at the Red Bull Ring in April, in Grobnik in May, and then a couple of weeks later also in May at the Salzburgring. We then had a 2-month-long summer break before heading this weekend in Most with very high temperatures yesterday, a much different combination of factors today. On the other hand, as we welcome a bit of chilled air and some spits of rain, though of course conditions are dry right now, but this should be the weather we have tomorrow as well, which will be quite interesting, I have to say, knowing how important it is for the drivers to have a consistent weekend with temperatures and with track conditions. We now see the drivers coming towards the final few corners. We will see then everyone slot into their grid spots, getting ready for what will be 25 minutes of racing here at the Autodrom Most, one of the most important tracks in the Czech Republic, together with Brno. It has held plenty of touring car racing, the WTCR race of Slovakia down in 2021, and of course Clio Cup being one of the predecessors of touring car racing, just getting the drivers ready for what would be a career in touring car racing later on. And this is of course a perfect opportunity for some of them to showcase their great skills, as now you can see the last couple of cars coming towards the final 2 corners. As everyone looks to find their own spot, which would make it a bit easier naturally to find their spot on the grid. Here is the very final car getting ready to line up on the starting grid. And as we get ready for the 5 lights to come up, it's going to be a dash to turn number 1 between Reto Wurst and Rafael Paprota in order to understand who will come out on top for this opening fight, one of the many ones we will see for sure in these 25 minutes, as now the last couple of cars come into their position, as this field of 12 rows is now finally complete, and the green flag is about to be waved at the back of the starting grid. The 5 lights come up and it's already underway. Race number 1 of the Clio Cup Bohemia here in Most. It's been a great getaway for Rafael Paprota, now taking the slipstream from Reto Wurst towards turn number 1. A great getaway from Julian Śmiechowski as well, already moving into 3rd position as the 2 leaders now go side by side into turn 1. There's also Tomáš Pekař fighting for that 3rd place, and it looks to have gotten it in front of Nico Wurst, whereas Śmiechowski was a bit trapped into turn number 1 and 2, having to lift off the throttle and staying in 5th position as the pair now goes towards turn number 5. In this downhill section, it is Reto Wurst still in the lead, Rafael Paprota in 2nd, Tomáš Pekař in 3rd, and then it's Nico Wurst and Julian Śmiechowski, as now Paprota tries it up the inside into turn 10, almost leaving the way through to Pekař, and now we are 3 wide going towards turn number 11, and Pekař muscles his way through his 2 competitors. Almost contact, there is contact, and there's the spin for Tomáš Pekař, who somehow avoids contact with the barriers, and he's still in this race somehow. As however, now he has to find his way through, but no, I think he has a problem. Yes, loses the car now, maybe even a puncture, given how tough it was for him to keep the car straight. As you can see, definite issue maybe on the front left, but contact putting an abrupt end to his race. And out of nowhere, Julian Śmiechowski seems to be in front, with Rafał Paprota in second, and then comes the rest of the field towards the end of the first lap. We'll see who comes out on top, of course, looking to understand also where championship leader Bartłomiej Mirecki is in car number 96. It is Julian Śmiechowski in first, in front of Rafał Paprota and Oskar Marszalkowski, a top three made of Polish drivers, as championship leader Bartłomiej Mirecki has already shot up to 5th position. A phenomenal getaway. Here he is with the white and green car, already up to 5th in front of Martin Toth and Reto Wust. Of course, an opening lap collision that aided the championship leader on his quest to gain a lot of time. Here is, however, the damage for Pekař on the rear left tire that was badly damaged with the suspension after the contact between himself, Reto Wust and Rafał Paprota, who somehow is still in second position, having avoided major consequences after the accident. Here is, meanwhile, Pavel Wijmik between the two Wust family members. As now you can see Bartłomiej Mirecki watching on as Matic Preza looks to the outside of Oskar Marszalkowski, but Marszalkowski keeps the position as the three now go towards turn number 12, fighting as Preza now takes all the slipstream in the world towards the penultimate corner of the track. Will he try a move around the outside? No, he has to stay behind. Meanwhile, the yellow flag has been brought out and the safety car has been brought out on track. Therefore, all action will be momentarily stopped, as the drivers have now seen the safety car boards, which mean that they cannot fight for a position anymore in these first few minutes. Julian Śmiechowski is still in the lead. Unfortunately, the car out is Jan Raszka of Carpac Service. Car number 9 out of the race, which is why we have a safety car out on track. He has been left stranding in the gravel trap, which is very unfortunate. And now the safety car is therefore out on circuit. Such a shame for Jan Raszka and Tomáš Pekař. Carpac Racing not having the greatest of starts for this race, which is very unfortunate for them. But now the safety car out on track. You could see Raszka's car on the outside, I think it was, of turn number 6, which is unfortunate, of course. But given that now they can come back to the pits and think long and hard before the next race, which come later this weekend, tomorrow more precisely. But now the safety car has bunched the field up, which is of course super important for everyone in the hopes of fighting against Julian Śmiechowski. He has had a phenomenal start naturally, it has worked wonderfully for Śmiechowski. After that contact, he was down in 5th position. Which is why he is in 1st place as of right now. And here is the replay of contact. I mean, 3 into 1 rarely works, which is why that happened, but was phenomenal from Śmiechowski as well to hold down to that lead after losing control of his car. Unfortunately for Pekař, that was race over, however, with the damage to his rear right suspension. Such a shame for him, of course, given how difficult it was for Pekař to climb from 4th all the way to basically 1st place for a brief split second. And unfortunately, however, that is how his race ended as well. This, of course, helped championship leader Bartłomiej Mirecki climb up the field and up to 5th, with Matic Preja and Oskar Marzelkowski now in front of him. Behind, of course, the 2 leaders, Julian Śmiechowski and Rafał Paprota. Poland being perfectly represented with 4 drivers inside the top 5, and all 3 of the podium spots being occupied by one of their drivers. Matic Preja being the odd one out as of right now. Behind him, the home hero Martin Toth will have the tall order of making the Czech Republic proud after their main card, Tomáš Pekař, was taken out of the deck. But as the safety car now takes a bit of space over the rest of the field, which bunches up quite quickly as Matic Preja almost runs into the back of Oskar Marzelkowski, we get ready for the very end of this lap, when the safety car restart will happen, as Śmiechowski seems to have pulled the trigger extremely early here. The question is, will he run into the safety car or not? Because he will be quite close to it as we round out the final couple of corners. No, the safety car is safely in, thankfully, and therefore we're back racing under green flag conditions with now 16 minutes left on the clock. It's Julian Śmiechowski, Rafał Paprota and Oskar Marzelkowski in the top 3. We are back racing once again, and here is the leading pack with Marzelkowski looking to the inside of Paprota, almost to disturb his rival, but also to defend from Matic Preja, who is in 4th position as well. The 3 move towards turns number 1 and 2, where now Nico Wurst goes on the attack, trying to overtake Pavel Wismik and managing to do so in one quick sweep. Therefore, the Swiss driver moves into 8th position behind his fellow family member Reto. Almost airborne goes Dawid Babraj, as Miha Prizovic is right behind him, now in the fight with Jörg Sodnik, as Sodnik moves in front, which also enables Xavier Osolinski-Nerdik through, as BM Racing Team then gains another position. In front, though, it's still Jakub Śmiechowski ahead of the pack, Paprota and Marzelkowski in 2nd and 3rd. Watch out, of course, for Bartłomiej Mirecki, as he is still in 5th position, looking to be very dangerous in the second half of this race. He has done basically nothing to be promoted to 5th, though he was starting down in 14th position, so he already had a great getaway before the contact that put Tomáš Pekař out of contention for this opening race of this weekend. As you can see now, all the cars move towards the penultimate corner. We're now following Václav Janik Jr., car number 88. Meanwhile, in front, it is Miha Prizovic fighting against Osolinski-Nerdik. And as we go towards turn number 1, it was Bartłomiej Mirecki on the attack on Martin Preja as well. Has Mirecki made the move stick? We'll find out soon enough. Yes, he has. Making it a Poland 1-2-3-4 at the minute, with Mirecki now up in front of Pekař for 4th in the standings. Meanwhile, fastest lap for Rafał Paprota in 1 minute 52.2. Just 0.3 quicker than Jakub Śmiechowski, who looks to be slightly less competitive than his rival right about now. Of course, that could change quickly, but that would mean that Paprota and Marzalkowski will enable Bartłomiej Mirecki to come back into the fight for the podium. Once again, Nico Vuest and Pavel Vizhmik in the fight between one another, and Vizhmik this time goes back through and up into what should be 8th position in front of Nico Vuest. More fighting on the tail end of the top 10. And this is Jakub Wondracek trying to attack a very distressed Nico Vuest as of right now. He has lost plenty of positions. Let's not forget he was starting from 3rd position. His teammate Reto was starting in the lead, and once again wide goes Nico Vuest, losing yet another couple of positions. Definitely not what he had in mind. As we now go towards turn number 1, a new challenge awaits the top 5, as Mirecki has caught the back of Oskar Marzalkowski and is very close to his rival, just 0.4 behind his compatriot. An all Polish affair for the podium, this one. The top 4 drivers being from the same country. Here you can see a bit of a wider picture at the tail end of the top 10, but we are interested in looking at the top 4 drivers. As of course we had a great start so far for the Polish colors. Jakub Śmiechowski still in front, as Paprota and Marzalkowski stay in 2nd and 3rd, but of course no one can sleep tight knowing that Bartłomiej Mirecki is behind them in 4th, ready to go out on the attack. As here you can see Nico Vuest very close to the back of Martin Toth in the Adidas Racing Clio, a team that is here also with TCR Eastern Europe. The Czech outfit being dangerously competitive in both categories as well. Speaking of dangerous, here is Bartłomiej Mirecki super close to the back of Marzalkowski. Will he try a move? No, because it's Marzalkowski who goes up the inside of Paprota towards turn number 2. The two almost touch wheels, and this will enable for sure Bartłomiej Mirecki to go for the switchback, not just on one driver but maybe on both. A bit not as smart as they could have been. Paprota and Marzalkowski fighting too hard and letting Mirecki through with a double pass, though Marzalkowski tries to retake 2nd away from the championship leader. He needs to be very careful, Mirecki, in this section. Another lockup on the other hand for Paprota as he slips almost down to 5th, but now almost 3 wide once more. This has not worked out before, guys, as Matic Pekař goes onto the grass. There's contact once again. This time though the 3 cars make it through unscathed somehow. But the most important thing out of this battle is that Bartłomiej Mirecki is up into 2nd position, all the way from 14th on the grid. As now up the inside goes Matic Pekař on Rafał Paprota, who has lost 3 positions in 2 sectors. That is dangerous stuff for the Polish driver, who has therefore dropped out of the podium places. with less than 9 minutes on the clock. This has, of course, helped Julian Śmiechowski build a bit of a gap over now Bartłomiej Mirecki, who is in second. Though, of course, he will have to worry about his rival coming back pretty soon. Here goes, meanwhile, another attack from Martin Toth on Paprota. He may have some issues, Rafał, because he has lost plenty of time and he has now dropped another place behind Nico Vuest. Meanwhile, Preja has gone in front of Marszalkowski, up into third position for the Slovenian, sort of ruining the Polish dream of a 1-2-3 on the podium for their colors, which means that Śmiechowski and Mirecki stay as the sole two drivers in first and second. And it's such a shame, of course. But it means that Mirecki and Śmiechowski will now be able to give us a fight for not just the win, but also another chapter in the championship battle. Meanwhile, yet another fight between Vuest and Toth. Once more, it's Vuest who goes through for fifth position, slowly coming back as Nico is now into fifth position. Reto, on the other hand, has had a terrible time. I think maybe some damage from that contact on the opening lap of the race, because he has dropped from first all the way down to 12th position. But as the drivers now pass through the start-finish line, Jakub Śmiechowski has an 8/10 lead over Bartłomiej Mirecki, but in the previous lap, Mirecki put in the fastest lap of the race, a 1:51.7, which was 9/10 quicker than Śmiechowski. And he will be hot on his rival's tail by the end of this lap. Meanwhile, Jörg Sodnik is very close to the back of Rafał Paprota, who has definitely struggled since that overtake and that contact 2 laps ago, dropping from second now all the way to 9th position. A couple of lockups into turn 6. One of them from Sodnik in the 555 car. Meanwhile, here is Rafał Paprota in the 99 piece of machinery. Unfortunately for him, he's losing heaps of time now. In 10th, behind him is Dawid Babraj in 11th, but I think things will change quite quickly here, as Paprota just doesn't seem to have the pace now. Maybe even some damage, of course. But as we go towards turn number 13, around the outside goes Dawid Babraj into 10th. That was a very good overtaking move on his rival. And as you can see, Paprota losing places left, right and center. Not good for him, of course. Such a shame for a driver that was starting from the front row of the grid and that had done so well throughout this race in the opening few stages. Meanwhile, we see that Nico Vuest is once again behind Martin Toth, who has retaken 5th place. Almost 3 wide on the other hand behind them, as Jakub Wądraczek, Sodnik, and I think it's Paweł Wismik are fighting towards turn number 1. The bravest on the brakes looked to be Sodnik, who is now moved up in front of car number 22, which gets tagged from behind from Dawid Babraj, leaving the latter vulnerable from Reto Vuest, the poleman of this race, who is now looking to climb back up into the top 10. Can he do it up the inside of his rival, who unfortunately for him will have the upper hand in the next corner probably because of the line getting better. Yes, it is. And now Wurst is up into another battle, this time with Alan Kluja, car number 7, and that is Dawid Babraj also in the fight. But now just 3 minutes and 20 seconds left on the clock, and that is little time for Bartłomiej Mirecki to put on a move, but he will definitely try as the two touch into the penultimate corner. There's damage to one of the mirrors on Mirecki's car, who is now through, but of course there will be another change now as Śmiechowski does the over and under and moves into the lead once more, but the two separated by nothing towards the first corner. Who will be the bravest under braking? It is Śmiechowski, who closes the door on Mirecki, but the two have more contact as now Śmiechowski is sent into the gravel. Yet another twist in this race. A strong move from Bartłomiej Mirecki, who did not care whatsoever that his rival was closing the door on him. He dove up the inside into turn 2, and the inevitable contact happening right before our eyes. That was a big contact between them as Mirecki now moves into the lead, but at what cost? Will the stewards have anything to say about that? We'll find out in due course. But this now promotes Bartłomiej Pekař and Oskar Marszalkowski back on the podium, and this fight between Toth and Wurst is now for 4th instead of 5th, as Mirecki has moved into the lead and Śmiechowski has lost plenty of time in the fight for the podium places. So now we can see the group behind the top 5 drivers being still quite close to one another. This is Miha Primožič behind Rito Wurst in the fight for 12th position. But out front, Julian Śmiechowski getting ready to start the final lap of the race. A 1.1 second gap over Bartłomiej Pekař and 3.5 seconds on Oskar Marszalkowski. Mihanikov Wurst still close to Martin Toth, almost looking to the outside into turn 1, but unfortunately not good enough from him on the braking to muster up a move, which is what is happening behind in the fight between Julian Śmiechowski and Jakub Wądraczek. But this is Mirecki out front. He was in 14th position on the starting grid, but it looked like no one could stop him today. Fighting hard, muscling his way through to first place. It was very much aggressive. Unfortunately for his direct rival Jakub Śmiechowski, he has dropped down to 6th position as the JTS Racing Team driver was unable to keep his car in the top 5, which was definitely a shame. Just a couple of more laps and Bartłomiej Pekař could have had a real shot at winning this race. He might still have one should Bartłomiej Mirecki be penalized for his move on Jakub Śmiechowski. But so far, race number 1 will go to Bartłomiej Mirecki as he crosses the line to win his 4th race of the season, as he extends his championship lead in Clio Cup Bohemia. A phenomenal drive from 14th on the grid. He has been outstanding, just like this finish in the fight for 6th position, won by Jakub Wondracek, who just finished in front of Julian Śmiechowski and Jörg Sodnik. But it is Bartłomiej Mirecki who wins this race in front of Matic Preja and Oskar Marzelkowski, 2 poles on the podium. In between them, the Slovenian talent of Matic Preja and BA Motorsport in 3rd position. Instead, it is Oskar Marzelkowski. Another great drive from him, as the JTS racing team finally has something to smile about today after what happened with Julian Śmiechowski a couple of laps from the end, as Bartłomiej Mirecki will celebrate win number 4, probably the most hard-fought one, not just of the season but of his entire career in Clio Cup Bohemia. But that was sensational from Mirecki, as he can celebrate the win. It was good driving from Martin Toth and Nico Wüst, who finished 4th and 5th respectively after a very intense fight that saw the Additis Racing driver come out on top in front of Wüst. And then of course we saw the finish between Wondracek, Śmiechowski and Sodnik right at the end. But here are the final standings. Bartłomiej Mirecki takes the win in front of Matic Preja and Oskar Marzelkowski. 4th place goes to Martin Toth in front of Nico Wüst, with Jakub Wondracek, Julian Śmiechowski, Jörg Sodnik, Dawid Babraj and Pavel Wijmik rounding out the top 10. Then it's Alan Kluja in front of pole sitter Reto Wüst. He will definitely be disappointed by that result. Miha Primozic in 13th position, just in front of Javery Osolinski-Niedorik in 14th, and then Rafał Paprota finishing in 15th after he fought for the win in the first half of the race. Fortunately, out of the race instead is Tomáš Pekař after contact on lap 1 when he was trying to go around the outside of turn number 14 to take the lead of the race, which unfortunately for him didn't happen and didn't work out. But he will have one more chance tomorrow at 12:35 p.m. local time, as the drivers will go out on track once more for race number 2 of Clio Cup Bohemia. But that is everything from race number 1. Thank you for being with us, and see you guys next time.